Hello, and welcome everyone to the first ever Sonoma County CareerFest Business and Entrepreneurship panel. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Tracy Batchelder. I'm the moderator of today's event, and I'm also the college and career counselor at Santa Rosa High School. We have Nicole Consilla from Piner High School. She's going to be monitoring the Q&A during the panel. We also have Chris Cotilli from Sonoma County Office of Education, who's helping out. And I want to thank them and all of you, the panelists and the attendees, for being here today. So before we get started with our speakers, I just want to let you know, the attendees know, that the chat has been disabled. But I want to encourage you to use the Q&A that's located at the bottom of your screen to ask any questions of any of the panelists. We're going to wait until the end to answer these questions, although the panelists might answer a few along the way. And then also Nicole's going to be putting a link in the attendance form to an attendance form in the chat at the end of the panel. So for those students who are attending this class for an assignment and need proof of attendance, you can fill that out at the end. So I'm excited to bring some special guests today. We have Sheela Hodes with Compass Real Estate, Salvador Picazo Chavez, the president and CEO at Puente-Internacional and owner of Picazo Restaurant and Cafe in Sonoma, and Lindsey Stone, who works at Edward Jones. So welcome all. And I am going to start with Sheela first. And I just want to ask you to please briefly introduce yourself and then give us just a short overview of your company, what you do in your role, and you can also include your career path that took you to where you are now.
Okay, great. Hi. So I'm Sheela Hodes, and I am a realtor with Compass Real Estate. Compass is a national real estate company, all across the U.S. And here locally, we have, one in every city in Sonoma County. So, Santa Rosa, Healdsburg, Sonoma, all over, Sebastopol. And I have been working there, or I've been working as a real estate agent for 15 years. I've been partnered with my business partner for 14 years. And I am a second career realtor. I was a nurse for the first 15 years of my working life. And then I transitioned to real estate, which is, kind of surprising to some, but it's not surprising to me. But we sell a lot of real estate in the area. We're one of the top agents, and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Great, thank you so much, Sheela. And Sal, can you do the same and tell us about yourself, your company, or companies, I should say, and your role and the career path you took to get to where you are today?
Yeah, my name is Salvador Chavez. I'm from Sonoma, California. My background in business started in a little 1,500 square foot space in Sonoma, California on the west side. It's still there, called Picazo Cafe, which I originally started with my parents. Now that's extended into a food truck and another location that's a bigger setting, different restaurant. But before that new restaurant, before a lot of other stuff, I had started a spirits company called Puente-Internacional. The purpose of it originally was to bring spirits across from Mexico into the U.S. One thing led to another. I became a dual citizen, got involved in the production side. I actually find myself in Michoacan right now, where we produce La Luna Mezcal. My family's from here, and this is why I landed here to do this project in the first place. And so, yeah, the extent of my work is all things, I feel like, a jack of all trades to a certain degree. But right now, a lot of focus on like top level growth for expansion of different states and different countries for the spirits more specifically.
Great, thank you so much, Sal. Lindsey, you're in a very different business than Sal. So can you tell me a little bit about about Edward Jones and your role at the company and the path that took you to get to your career?
Yes, so my name is Lindsey Stone and I live in Sonoma, and I'm a financial advisor with the company Edward Jones. I have my own office And I work with my partner, Kelly, here in Sonoma. And we work with lots of clients that are really looking they have different financial goals, whether it's saving for retirement, saving for children's college education, maybe first-time home buyer, or really kind of help process their estate to leave to their, children and their loved ones. But mostly I would say I focus on retirement planning. And so the bulk of my business is, yes, making investment advice on what investments, whether it's stocks or bonds or mutual funds, they should own. But it's also a lot more about really understanding what's important to my clients, what their risk comfort level is, what their goals are, and creating a plan to help, make sure that they achieve those goals. And I've been with the company out for about 7 years, and started doing home mortgages, then worked for Wells Fargo Bank here in Sonoma for 6.5 years doing business banking. And then just eventually migrated into investments and finance. And that's where I'm at today.
Great. Thanks so much for giving us some background on all three of you. So we're going to dive into some of the questions I have for you. And I'd like to start with Sal. Entrepreneurship, to me, it takes a lot of courage. I don't know if I'd have that courage. And there's often risks involved. And so I'm curious, Sal, as an entrepreneur, if there was ever a risk that you were afraid to take, and did you take it? And did you ever feel fear of failure along the way? And how did you overcome that fear, if you did have any fear?
So quite interesting. One thing that happened in my life, I was on the school board for 6 years in Sonoma Valley Unified. And I entered at a very young age. And I feel like in a weird way, that public sector really helped out my life in the private sector, because it's always kind of under the light of scrutiny and a lot of pressure and a lot of decisions to be made that are important for students, for the community. And I think that made me evolve into a little bit more resilient of a person, thick-skinned, etc. So then that kind of helped me in the world of entrepreneurship a little bit more, because the fear factor kind of exited a long time ago. So while at some point there were more risks, higher risks, or different levels of risks, it was scarier back when I was younger. At this point, not so much. It really doesn't. I don't think of it that way anymore, which I find to be quite a blessing, because it lets me move a little bit faster at a time that I need to. And so I'm not sure if I answered the question specifically, but I think there is a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of on the spot decisions you have to make. But I don't think I would have it any other way at this point. I really enjoy it. And all of the attributes of it are fun for me now, the bad and the good.
Yeah, it sounds like you've become accustomed to some of the risks maybe, and with your success, maybe that's made it easier. Is that kind of true?
Yeah, and I always use the word success lightly, because I'm not, it means something different to all of us, and so I don't necessarily feel that I've been successful per se. I feel that we've continued to grow, which is good enough, in the sense that our team grows, we get to employ more people. People are passionate about the stuff that I'm passionate about in our organizations, and that to me is I would say success for sure.
Okay, great. And to Lindsey, again, different business, but do you feel like you've taken risks along the way to get to where you are?
Yes, actually, when I took this job 7 years ago, it was probably the biggest risk I've ever taken. I had to pass a lot of really difficult tests that I didn't think that I would be able to. So that was a different kind of stress for me. And then the biggest thing was, for the first 1 to 2 years of doing this, I had to build my business and I had to meet clients. And it's not required, but one of the ways that they advise is to actually go out and knock on doors. And so I literally knocked on people's doors in Sonoma, introducing myself, for about 1 to 2 years, which was so incredibly nerve-wracking. I mean, there were days where I was crying, and there was days where I was doing it in the heat or the rain, and you're constantly being rejected. And I overcame that really by just focusing on the things that I could control and not necessarily the outcome. So I knew that I just, if I knew I could knock on doors for 2 hours, that was all I could control. And I tried to block out the way that certain people reacted to me and just kind of took it day by day. So that was a huge risk. And it was also a very humbling experience that I wouldn't change for anything. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore, but it definitely helped build grit inside of me. I got to meet a lot of really interesting people, but it was a huge risk, and I'm very thankful for it, actually.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. And so Sal touched upon success a little bit. And so Sheela, directing this question to you, I know you've been a very successful real estate agent in the top 1% of agents in Sonoma County for many years. And I'm curious, what you attribute your success to, and then how do you measure your success, and what does success really mean to you?
Oh, well, good question. So I think, what do I attribute it? I had a similar path to Lindsey in regards to, my biggest, challenge was changing careers from nursing to something totally different. So I had a really strong drive to do it. I felt so much more freedom with having my own business that I felt that I didn't have as a nurse. And I was very driven by that. I just knew that I needed to be my own boss and entrepreneur. So that sort of drove me to do the hard work to sort of transition to that area. But I think that what do I attribute to the success? I think just drive and passion, and then just hard work. I mean, similar to Lindsey, when you first enter a whole new career and you have to prove yourself to yourself that you can do that, a whole different, career. I think you have to do the hard work and have your expectation, that the results won't happen for a while. So you can't just jump into a career and expect to have this booming business. And so just, having that expectation, doing everything that you need to do. I heard Lindsey say she did the door knocking. I did open houses. I put myself out there. You have to create thicker skin and be prepared for rejection, because you're not going to be a match for everybody. And I think that's hard at first, but you learn to accept that as, you're meant to have the business that comes your way and that is a match for you. So I think just really having that drive and passion, and know that, have that clarity that this is right for you.
Yeah, great. And Sal, along those same lines, I mean, you have been able to grow your businesses. I know your family started out with one restaurant, you've opened another one, you've been able to grow your business down in Mexico. How do you attribute your ability to grow your businesses and success in those terms?
I would say that I've been very fortunate to have a lot of good mentors around me, people that invested in the company that were willing to work with me, not just write a check. I attribute that aspect of being able to work with everybody to my parents, from the perspective of who they were, how they raised me, and all that good stuff. So I think that's been a lot of the way. The bruises and all the failures that we speak of. Kind of once again, saying the same thing. It's been the ability to just move past them really quickly, and not really dwell on them. I think that's been one of the biggest skill sets and tools that allow having multiple spaces, because each business has literally its own brick and mortar. You could say, like, one would be a warehouse for the housing of the spirits, and then the facility down here for producing them, and then in restaurant worlds it's brick and mortars, right? But having the right partners, the right people with you, and being able to work with people, I think has been the reason I've been able to grow in all those different areas.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting point, sort of surrounding yourself by the right people, it sounds like part of it. And then all three of you kind of have talked about kind of hard work and being persistent, persevering. So Lindsey, I just wanted to pivot a little bit and dig more into skills, and those are a lot of those are soft skills, but talking about both hard and soft skills, job skills in general. I'm just curious what it takes to be a financial advisor, and specifically, what skills do you rely on in your current work, and how did you develop those skills?
The biggest skill, a lot of people think there's a lot of, like you have to be really smart in math. And I wasn't. Math was actually my worst subject in school. You have to be really good with people is really what you have to be good at. And to be able to manage time. So I'd say I'm good with all different types of people and time management. I think are probably the two most important skills in this industry. And I think that, I was in my early 30s when I started at Edward Jones. And so all throughout my 20s, I was in the mortgage industry and worked at a bank, a really busy bank. Also, even just in high school, working in restaurants as a busser or whatever, you don't even realize that you're developing all those people skills, but you are. And just really learning how to work with all different types of people. So if you're not a people person, and you don't enjoy working with all different types of people, then this probably isn't the best industry for you. But that's the biggest skill. And then just, managing your time so that you don't get bogged down with too many things that don't generate business, which can easily happen in this industry. So time management and people skills.
Great.
And it's a lot of just experience in life, basically. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, Sheela, I assume that, in real estate, it's similar in terms of those people skills and the fact that you are interfacing with clients all the time, having communication skills must be important. But what other skills do you feel like you rely on, and how did you develop your skills?
Yeah, I would say, so one of the skills that it took me a while to develop, and also my partnership with Tamara and expanding it to other agents, is writing. I think writing is one of the, if you have strong writing skills, you can do so much in whatever career. But I feel like it's really important through communication with your clients. Also, we have marketing and writing, writing that's in our marketing for each individual house and website. So having a strong skill in that is always a plus. And then also, financial basic skills, because you do spend a lot of money, you invest money on a lot of the things that you do. And you have to be able to oversee your budget and manage that, and strategizing. And specifically to real estate, besides people skills, that's absolute. I agree with what we just spoke about. But besides people skills, I think advocacy for your clients and negotiation. I ended up, I don't know, I didn't really have negotiation experience, but that's just a skill that I developed really quickly. And part of the negotiation skill, part of what I did to develop it that I had naturally is I listened a lot. And if you listen really well, it's easy to negotiate in my mind, and it ends up translating into a better, negotiation for your clients and stuff. But that's another skill, I would say, that happens with experience. But sometimes it's easier for some people than others, but listening is the key to that.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
And Sal, you mentioned your parents earlier, and I read an article where you're quoted saying that your parents really emphasized education, hard work. And in addition to those things, what are some of the skills that you find you need in your job? And how did you get those skills along the way?
What Lindsey said in terms of life experiences resonated really well with me, because I feel like those have been probably the biggest key to it all. I attribute a lot of things that happened in my early start in that little 1,500 square space, because it was do it all things, where it was customer service interfacing, which was wonderful. I got to meet a lot of great people. Some of the mentors I still have today, because Sonoma is just a really unique place with the people that are residents of the town. So it was a lot of the hands-on aspect of it. which I think because of that hard work side of it, it added up to give me those skill sets over time. The educational side of it was interesting because I feel like not one thing I learned specifically in what I studied, which was economics at Sonoma State, really impacted what I'm doing today. But I think the ability to learn in general, like the writing was huge. My best writing teacher, or the writing influence, was a history teacher, ironically, at Sonoma State. But the ability to learn, I think, was huge, because then that allowed me, in the space I am today, to learn quickly and move on and deploy strategies pretty quickly with the team. And a lot of it right now has become the sports side of it for me too, because I played basketball a lot at a decently high level. And now I find myself to be more on the coaching side in the position that I'm in as the leader of the organizations. It is coaching. It is being able to put people in the right positions. And I think that the athletic side to my upbringing really helped me there.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, because I think sometimes we can underestimate how other areas of our lives really can play into our work as well. So super interesting on the athletics. And along those lines, and you did mention, a class at Sonoma State that you took. And so, Lindsey, along those lines, sometimes I think, especially in high school, you can wonder, like, how is what I'm learning applicable to the real world of work, right? And so I'm curious what high school classes you feel most relate to your profession. And are there any classes you wish you had taken in high school that you didn't?
Yeah, so I did not take leadership in high school, and I maybe wish that I would have done that. I think that would probably be a good class to take in all different aspects. If there was ever any public speaking classes, which I don't know if there's a whole lot of that in high school. I know in college, though, I would definitely recommend public speaking classes, even if it makes you super nervous. So for me, what classes did I take? I would say it's just all of the classes. And again, it's just the ability to learn, the ability to manage your time and do your homework, and make sure you do your projects on time. All of that, it adds up. And to Sal's point, I had wrote this down. I think sports is a really big thing too. Sports, it teaches you teamwork, how to play with other people, tenacity. I mean, sports is huge, and I did a lot of sports, so I think that teaches you almost more in some respects than some of the classes in high school even. So all of that, I think, just sort of builds a foundation. But I would say leadership, public speaking, probably those. Maybe debate would be probably good. Yeah, all of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Sheela, is there anything you'd like to add to that as far as classes that you feel, high school classes that would relate to your field, or any classes you wished that you had taken but you didn't?
I actually 100% agree with everything that Lindsey and Salvador said. It's like there's so much that you can take from just life experience and learning in general. And that means all classes. I mean, from psychology to art to English to, all those classes. Leadership and public speaking will help in life no matter what. I think it just helps you. One of the sayings that a real estate agent has, one of our leaders in real estate said, a shy real estate agent, doesn't really bring in a lot of food for their family, because, you have to be able to feel comfortable being out there in the world and speaking and everything. So I just think a well-rounded education, and then just being aware where your passion lies through that experience.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Well, that's the end of my moderated questions. So I want to ask Nicole to come on and bring some of the Q&A into our conversation, and see if you can answer some of the attendee questions.
Hello, hi, yes. So a lot of questions were actually answered during the panel, the presentation. But Lindsey, you were asked, and you did answer, you were asked, did you study business before you started? And you answered that you studied interior design, but you would recommend business or communications as a great foundation for your career. And you also mentioned that sorry, I just lost my screen, that there are a lot of exams and continuing education in your current career. Can you speak a little bit to that about
Yeah.
those?
And I was trying to answer another question, but I messed up. So someone else asked me if getting your MBA would be worth it.
Yes. And that's one I have also. So you could
So
maybe
to answer that question, yes, I mean, I think any kind of studying in college is worth it for so many reasons. I don't have my MBA, but so in my industry, I think having a bachelor's degree is going to be required and definitely important. But in order to become a licensed financial advisor, you have to pass a series of exams, and you're required to do that. And that's not something that you would necessarily do through a college course. So I had to pass the Series 7, Series 6, and insurance. And then along the way, I've taken, you constantly have to do continuing education every single year. It's required. And then there's things that you can do that are above and beyond. So right now, one of the things that I'm doing, which I think is very, very important, is to become a CFP, which is a certified financial planner. And I've finished the college course basically for that. And then you have to study and take the exam, but it's a very, very intense course. The studying is very intense for a good solid 3 to 6 months, maybe even a year. So I just have to make the time. I'm a mother also, so I have to, make the time to take that exam. But to answer your question, after you graduate from college and you want to get in this industry, there's going to be constantly more and more things that you're going to be needing to take to make sure that you're continuing your education, basically. So I think, did I answer all the questions, Nicole? Okay.
So thank you. Thank you so much. This next question is for Sheela. How would you recommend getting familiar with the real estate market prior to becoming a certified real estate agent?
There's a lot of support staff that works in real estate companies that would be a good way to become familiar. I think it's a good way to do that is to either be an assistant or work in an office. There's also other entities that realtors work with, like title companies and escrow and lending. And there's a lot of different areas that you can slowly become familiar with real estate, and at least parts of it, because there's many parts to it. But I'd say the best way would be to work on a real estate team, which is more and more popular these days, and support a team. That would be the best.
Thank you. Tracy, do we have time for one
Sure.
more question? Okay, I'm not sure who exactly this was directed at. The question is, how do you find your team and the people you keep around you? I'm kind of thinking maybe Sal, that would be a good question for you.
That's a fairly loaded question, but I think it's been a journey, and it's a very layered process for me. I'm a very heavy EQ guy. I'm not the biggest on IQ on a personal level. I don't consider myself dumb, but I also don't consider myself super high IQ. But the EQ side, so a lot of it's emotional with me. I have to feel that the people are being responsible on their own outside of me being on top of them. I'm almost too, what would you call it? I always maybe take too long to make the decision to let someone go because I always see the best in people and not necessarily, and I always, from a coaching perspective, think I can convert someone to be a top-notch performer for us. So over time, some of the people just really gravitate towards what we're doing and show tremendous efforts. And that's what it is for me. Tremendous effort and obviously yielding results, but it usually coincides. So that would be it. Having the synergy with me as in my way of working, because I find it, a lot of my friends criticize me because I'm kind of scattered and going too fast and all that. But sometimes people, like the people that are with me right now that are part of my core team they know that about me, and they fit all of my weaknesses really well, which I think is probably the biggest thing, is that they realize where they can be great for the organization because I'm weak in them, and we make a killer team and we move fast and furious.
Yeah, I love that. And, emotional intelligence is as much as important as, IQ, if not even more so. So I love that. Thank you. I think that's all the time we have for questions. And I'm going to bring it back over to Tracy, Ms. Batchelder.
Okay. Great. So I want to thank all of our panelists for coming and taking the time today. It was excellent. So fun to learn more about you and your jobs. And also want to thank the participants, the attendees for coming and, having thoughtful questions and for attending. I just want to give a plug before we go for the next CareerFest workshop. It's starting at noon, and it's actually a hands-on workshop called Hustle to Bustle, and it's the skills you need to stand out and get hired for jobs in the 21st century. There's still time to register. You just go on the CareerFest website, and you'll get a Zoom link right away. So again, thanks for coming, everyone. Appreciate it, and we hope you'll continue to attend throughout the week to CareerFest. Thanks again, panelists. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I just remind all the students
Oh, yeah.
that I just posted the attendance form in the chat. So you can go ahead and click on that and fill that out, please, so you can get attendance credit.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.